Hello, church. So good to be with you again on this Monday or whatever day that you're watching the Take 5. Just quickly want to say thank you to Janice for the amazing job she did yesterday preaching on prayer at Georgianna. Janice is a prayer warrior in our church. She's somebody that you definitely want lifting your name before heaven. And she is such a gifted prayer person and just a great pastor and comfort to our church. And so I'm grateful to her for the great word she had yesterday. I also want to say thank you to all those that shared how powerful last Monday's Take 5 was. Clearly, my sense of what we needed as a church resonated with you, that there is all of us that we have this faith we have, and then there's this faith we want to have. And there's a gap between that. Sometimes in some of your lives, it's a chasm between the faith you have and the faith you want to have. And so I think we're in the right place to be talking about courageous faith and moving forward with that. And so I share with you from Hebrews today. Again, we're in chapter 11. So let me remind you, if you didn't do your homework last week and read Hebrews chapter 11 all the way through, I encourage you to do that. It's perspective building. It's going to put things in right order. So I encourage you to do that. But we find ourselves in the same chapter, this time beginning in verse 8. It says this: by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were his heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder was God. Now just pause for a second. Think about what he's got a vision, but he's thinking about living in a place where the foundations and the architect is God. I just love that passage. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the skies and as countless as the sand on the seashore. So I just want to take a moment before I unpack some of this. Just think about it. You're living your normal life here in Brevard County, and all of a sudden, God tells you, listen, you need to pick up your family and you need to move to Uzbekistan. I mean, like a place you've never heard of, a place that you've never been, a place that you've seen on the National Geographic Channel. I mean, like, you don't know anything about that place. This is essentially what's happened here with Abraham. He's just been sent by God to a place he's never been, to a lifestyle that is not what he's accustomed to. But the key is that he went in faith. I can remember the first time we got moved to a new city in ministry. Our boys were so confused about why that happened. It was as if they didn't understand what call was like, what this ministry life was going to be like. And so as we tried to explain to them that they'd have to leave their friends and leave their soccer team and leave the things they know and trust God to go to a city that we don't know, go to a place we did not know, and we would have to start over. This is what it looks like sometimes when God sends us. We have to live by faith. And here's what I would say to us, is that God is constantly sending us. Whether we go or not is sometimes a reflection of our faith. And so let me share to you what happens. Under the promises of God, there's a faith difference between striving and surrender. Striving is what we do under our own power. Surrender is what we do under God's power. Here's what I think happens in most of our lives. We spend all of our life trying to strive in faith, trying to do it on our own power, instead of surrendering and giving over the things we're worried about, concerned about, to a holy God, right? So we say we have faith, but then we keep interfering with God, right? You know, we've all done that. I've done that. I have faith. I'm going to trust God, but God's not moving fast enough. God's not doing it the way I would do it. God seems to be slow in his response, so I interfere. We've all done that, right? But God wants us to live by faith that is surrendered, not one that is striving, right, on our own power, but under his power. So let me make another comment. I think there's a difference between a transactional faith and a transformational faith. A transactional faith is one that treats God like an ATM machine, treats God like a drive-through, need-meeting divinity, that just you get what you want when you need it, not because you're in relationships. So it's transactional. You ask for something and you hope to receive something. There is that kind of faith. And I would say that this is where most people live in their faith life. But there's a transformational faith that God wants to see happen from the inside out, wants to see you purge the sin from your life, see you purge those things that block you from him. This is a transformational faith. I share with you Paul's words to the Galatians in chapter 2, beginning in verse 20. He says this, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Church, this is the end goal for us, is to have the kind of courageous faith that lives inside the resurrected body of Jesus Christ and not trying to do it inside the flesh, which has only led us to sin. So again, you want to have a transformational faith. You want to have a surrendered faith, not one that is striving and not one that's transactional. Gosh, I hope this has been helpful to you as we continue to unpack concepts of faith and our desire to close the gap between the faith we have and the faith we want to have. So I hope you know how much I love you. Gosh, Thanksgiving's right around the corner. And somebody told me today, it's like, I don't know, some ridiculous, 7 weeks to Christmas. So anyway, know that I love you. Can't wait to be with you again soon. Take care.